Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, SAP with IK. Hope you're all doing good. So today's topic will be on the functional specifications. So in this video, we'll discuss on how to write the functional specification if you have a requirement on creating a new report or maybe enhancing a transaction, or if you would like to add any specific additional functionalities that is not provided by the standard SAP into an existing transaction, or you would like to modify the transaction or maybe create a new report. So in that case, how the functional specification can be written by the functional consultant so that it could be easily understandable by the ABAP person or the developer. So here we are going to take an example of a custom report, and we'll see how to write the details and how to derive the values from the technical tables. So let's get started. So here on my screen we have an Excel sheet where I have roughly enabled the setup how the new report basically looks like. It is based on a pure assumption, and here we are going to create a new report that basically provides the details of the consumptions of the components that have been uh, consumed by a production order while manufacturing the finished product. So here my assumption is that the Z report, or we also call it as a custom report, right? So it should have the selection screen and an output screen. So I have two different sheets. The first one is the selection screen and the second one is the output screen. So when we talk about the selection screen here in SAP, let's say we use this transaction MB56. So here I'm providing few input parameters, right? And then we execute the report. So this is called as the selection screen. So the output of the parameters that we have provided in the selection screen, that will be shown in the output screen of the custom report. So here in the selection screen, my input parameters should be as the material, the plant, the date, and the posting date as well. So here when we talk about the materials, again here it could be a user entry where he can type in a single material, but there is also an option to create a particular range, right? So the range of the material should be from this and to this, right? So let's say my material, it has let's say it starts with one zeros and then two range is two zeros, sorry, right? So here this is my selection condition to look at the materials ranging between these two values, the from range and the to range. And the same way, if you'd like to enable this report or to make it work for multiple plants, then the same way you can also provide assign these values of the multiple selections for the plant. So let's say I need the report for plant 1000 to plant 3000. So whatever plant range that lies between the 1000 and the 3000, so all those plant codes will be considered into this report. And then we have the date. So here the date would be the creation of the order, or maybe it can also be the posting date. So again, for the posting date, it could be again the from range and the to range of the date. So let's say I need the posting date from 01 Jan 1st 2023 till August 1st 2023. Okay, so this will be by date range. And in the same way, you can also keep on adding your required values in the selection screen, so that the more values the user is going to provide, the less runtime would be used by the report, basically. So if we have, let's say if you just input the plant and then leave all these parameters like the material, the posting date, and everything. So you are just running it at the plant level. So system has to search all the records that have been executed between the plant range from 1000 to 3000, and then put it in the output screen. So it would take a lot of time. So if we provide more options for the user to provide in the initial screen, so that would actually run based on these combinations that are provided by the user. Okay, so now in the output screen, the client requirement is basically to see the details of the header material or the finished product that has been manufactured, and the component that is used during the manufacturing process. And along with that, we also have the plant code, in which, I mean, since we have provided the multiple plant selection, so the output should also show the plant where the consumption of the component has actually taken place. And also the storage location from which the stock has been consumed. And if the material is batch managed, we can also derive the details of that particular batch. And also the consumption date. And then we have the planned quantity. So this would be the quantity that has been planned in the production order or the process order. And then we have the consumed quantity, the actual quantity that has been consumed by the production order or the process order. And then we have the production order number, or it could be just an order which includes both production order and process order, in which the actual consumption took place. And then the date of posting in the material document. So here the consumption date and the posting date are quite similar. So I'm going to remove this. So now we have the posting date. So I'm going to take this example. So I'm going to take this example with the material number and the batch in the plant 1000. So if we go into the output of this report, so this is again a standard report, MB56, where you can see the top down or the bottom up analysis of a particular batch. So if I go to the drop down of this, so from here I can see that, if you expand these columns, so here I could see that this particular batch for the finished product, so here is the finished product and the batch number is 1047. So this has been manufactured in the production order or the process order ending with 6458 in the plant 1000 for a quantity of 100 numbers, right? And during the manufacturing process, it has actually consumed these five batches of, sorry, these five materials. Okay, so these are the batches. So these five batches of the materials. So this is the text of the material. But if we go into the change mode of the layout, we can also derive in the material code. So let's say I use this here. So here we have the material codes. So here we can see this saying that the consumption of the corresponding components along with those batches has taken place to manufacture the finished product against this process order ending with 6458. And here we also can see the components. But if you look at the initial screen here, we don't have an option to provide multiple materials at one time, right? Or maybe if I could just uh, go by the plant level, then it would be, a different way how we see the output. Okay, so here we have the material field as a mandatory field, so I cannot go based on the plant code itself. So that's a good thing. So now in this condition, so what should be the functional spec, and how can we derive the details of these consumption parameters from the tables? So before we go into the details of the functional spec, so here is a template, and this is not a standard template, but it would vary from a company to company and an organization based formats. So this is just as an example where you write it as a functional specification and the name of the report, followed by the document number, FSR. So R basically stands for the report, and CCR is a kind of a shortcut for the component consumption report. So then we are going to use the initial version of this particular document. So the document version history should also be placed. Why? Because the initial version you might have documented it might go for an peer review, and they could provide you some modifications or some changes where it could simplify the complete coding of the ABAP side, or maybe you have a different method where you can derive the data from the standard tables. So those changes can also be documented under this document history version table. And then you have the date on which the functional document or the functional specification is created and prepared by the functional person. So it would be your name. And then the business owner who has actually requested it from the client side. And then the description of the report. And your technical person or the developer name goes here. And then you'll have the description of the business process, like what is the reason you would like to create this report and what is the purpose of this report. And then you're going to list down all the objects which are going to be affected by this particular report. So since it is a new report, we don't have anything that would take an impact of. And you can also mention the reason why the standard SAP must be changed. Why? Because we do not have a readily available report in order to meet the conditions or the requirements provided by the customer. So the program requirements, it goes with the description of the purpose of the report on how it works. And then you can also provide the transaction of this particular Z report. So here I gave it as ZCCR, meaning that CCR is basically for the component consumption report. And since it is a custom report, I have placed Z as a prefix, Z or Z. So once we fill in those details, then we come down to the specification where we start writing the specification, like what values to derive and where to place those values, and what uh, output should be derived and placed in these tables. So before we go into the details of this particular specification writing the code, one thing is that the functional guy, he should be aware of the tables where he can actually derive the data from. So if you are a functional guy, you would very well know in which table we have the valid data available. So let's say you would like to get the details of the production orders or the process orders. And the first thing we do is go to the table SE16N, and you just type in the table as AFPO. So AFPO is basically to get the details of the production order or the process order at the based on a particular material. So here my material code is going to be this. So I'm going to copy and go to the table. So now I'm going to search for the material. So here the material number will have the technical name as Matner, MATNR, where you can see it on the right side. So all these values or the names that you see here under the technical name are basically used by the developers in order to create the mapping of fields in the above program. So here I'm going to pass the material. Sorry, maybe I just copied it. Okay, so this is the material and then the plant. So usually the technical name for the plant would be as works, WERKS, but here in this table it is named as DWERK. So I put it as 1000. So here I'm just passing in two values. One is my material and the other one is the plant. So based on these two combinations, I should be able to see the output of all the process orders or the production orders that are created with this combination. So if I execute this table, so here is the output where I can see the list of process orders that were created for this particular material. So now, since we have the order in the output of the report, So I'm going to start writing this specification. Okay, before that, so here in AFPO, we have the details of the order. Now, I'll have to go to a different table where I can see the consumption of the components. So for that, I could go to the MSEG table. So MSEG or MSEG, this is basically the table which stores the material documents that have been posted during the goods issue or the goods receipt or any particular movement type related transaction. So all those material documents will be stored in this particular table. So here I'll take one example. So let's take this process order ending with 6458, and I would like to see the total material documents posted against that particular order. So the technical name again for my search, it would be AUFNR, AUFNR, that is for the process order or the production order. So I'm just going to pass this order here, and in the output I would like to see the review the complete list of transactions that were performed against this process order. So here we could see in this particular field the movement type, we could see 5261s, which is our goods issue, and one material document for the 101 movement type, which is our goods receipt for the finished product. So now we have the details of the table of the order list, and then we also have the details of the uh, consumption details against that particular order from this MSEG table. So now let's go into the spec. So here I'm going to copy these fields and place it over here. So I'm going to put them in a sequence so that I can start writing those specs for each of these fields. Okay, so this is my output. Output screen, and then we have selection screen. So in the selection screen again, I am going to use the material, plant, and the posting date. So these are my input parameters. So let's say if you'd like to mark this particular field, the material should always be entered by the user, or maybe just leave it as blank. So here you can use this option as optional or mandatory. So if it is M, let's say the plant is mandatory, so then you can type it as M. So which means that the plant will be always keyed in as a mandatory field. So without entering the plant details, the report cannot be executed. So here I'm putting it as optional for the material, and the plant is mandatory, and then the posting date is again mandatory. And for more filters, I would like to use the order type. So this will be the order type of the production order or the process order. So here I'm going to make it as mandatory, and yeah, I think this is enough. So in the output screen, I should see the header material. Okay, so now let's get into the details of it. So in the output screen, the first spec that we are going to write here is for the header material. So the header material, it should be, let's say I'm going to write the code saying that display the value for Matner provided in the selection screen. So whatever values you are going to enter in the selection screen, that will be displayed in the output screen as well, right? So that is where we will have the link between the header material and as well as the production order or the process order. If not, if you have a different approach, so let's say I would like to use the material coming from the AFPO table, so we can use that very well. Yeah, so here we have the material. So now, yeah, the other approach is that pass Matner from selection screen to AFPO as AFPO so we will need to know the technical details as well, the technical fields of this particular uh, column headings. So if you just double click on that row, you will see the technical details here. So here it is Matner. So I'm going back, pass Matner from the selection screen to AFPO as Matner and derive the value for AFPO Matner and display in the field, right? So this is one approach again. So we have two methods here to show the display, to show the header material. And next for the component. So for the component, here I will have to pass this particular production order, right? So for that reason, pass Matner to, okay, along with the plant. So here we are passing the material along with the plant, right, to the AFPO. So if you go back one step, we have actually passed the plant along with the material, right? So here again, there is another option when you execute these tables, like you see the technical names here, you can also see the technical names. Let's say if you go into the change settings, so here you have the list output settings as the technical name as column heading. So if you just check that particular option and execute it, so the output of the table would show you the technical details of it. So here I'm going to pull in the plant. This is the planning plant and this is the manufacturing plant. So going back to the spec. So pass Matner along with DWERK to AFPO and derive, or maybe you can write it as and get value for AUFNR. So what we are doing here, we are basically passing the plant and the material to the AFPO and we are deriving the details of the offner, right? So here our offner is 6 3 times 0 648. So just for our understanding, I'm pasting the output values here. And then the next step is, I mean, we just bought the offner, but we haven't got the details of the component yet. So this offner should be passed on to the MSEC table now, right? So I'm going back to MSEC. Yeah. And then pass value for offner, or you can write it as AFPO offner. Why? Because if you just mention it as offner, again, the developer might get confused which offner are you basically talking about. Why? Because in the previous step you have asked him to get the offner from AFPO table. Now you are asking him to pass the same offner to a different table. So it is better to write it up with the table name in the prefix. Okay, so pass value for AFPO offner. Let me put this in bullets. So pass value for AFPO offner to MSEG. So let me do that. So this is my offner and I'm going to MSEG, and here I have the order placed and then execute. So here, since we are just talking about the consumption values, right, we don't need any details of the goods receipt, right? So why do we actually get the unwanted entries in the output of the table? So for that, what I'm going to do, I'll go to the top, and here we have the field for the movement type. So here I'm going to exclude the value, or maybe just include the value. So I'm going to include the values with 261. So but because I just need the consumption details of the order, right? So not the goods receipt. So I'm going to set this as equal to 261 movement type and then execute. So here the movement type technical field is BWART. So I'm going to write that. So pass value for offner where, okay, pass value for offner to MSEG where MSEG BWART is equal to 261. So now we are just passing the offner along with the movement type 261 in this MSEG table. And here we have the output. So now the next one is derive, or maybe you can say it as read the values. So here I'm going to say it as get values for MSEG. So I'll have to go back to the MSEG table to look at the uh, technical name of this material. So here again it is Matner. So I can write it as get values for MSEG Matner and display them in the field component. So now I got the details of my components. So here my components are these values. So I'm going to put it over here. These are my components from the output, and this is only for our understanding, but not to mention in the spec. While you write it, you can just provide some examples. And now for the plant, which is again part of the output. So here the plant is already available in the AFPO table, right? So for that you can actually write it with a single statement. Let me put this in bullets. And the plant get values for AFPO DWERK and display as plant. So we already have the code here, right, to pass the magnet to AFPO and so on. So I can just say it as to get the values for AFPO DWERK and display the value as plant. So in this case the value will be 1000. Now the storage location. So the storage location for the components are not available in the AFPO table, right? But we will have to get it from the MSEG table where the actual consumption took place. So here, since we have actually derived the component details from the MSEG table, you can use the pretty much same logic in the storage location as well. Or maybe you can just write it as get values for, go to MSEG and look at the technical name for the storage location. So here the storage location Okay, here we have it as ROH is the storage location, and the technical name is LGORT. Get values for MSEG, LGORT for each MSEG, MATNR. Why? Because if you look at the output of this particular table, MSEG, so there are different storage locations in which the consumption occurred. So these storage locations are again changing based on the material code or the component. So that is the reason if we write it as for each matner from the MSEG, so then the corresponding records that we see here for each of these components will be derived and shown in the report. So this is for the storage location. And next comes the batch. So the batch is again available in the MSEG table, right? So here I'm going to write it as get values for, I will go back to MSEG and look at the batch field. So here my batch is charge, right? The technical name of this field is charge. So get values for MSEG charge for each MSEG matner. Because the charge value, it basically keeps on changing for each of the matner. Not every component will have the same batch, right? If you look at the details here. So every component will have its own batch. So that's the reason we mention it as the charge. Okay, so here I've missed to mention the storage locations. Let me just copy it. So these are my storage locations, and then I have the batch. So these are the values of my batch. And then the planned quantity. So if you need the planned quantity is not available in the MSEC table. Why? Because the quantity that we have here is basically the consumed quantity, right? So we will not have those details over here. So for that, what you can do is go to AFPO and get the details of the reservation number. Why? Because the reservations that have been saved for all the components against a process order or a production order will be based on the reservation number. So the technical name for the reservation number is RSNum. RSNum. I don't think we have it here. Okay, let me search in the output. Okay, we don't have it here. So in this case, since we do not have it available, the other way how you can search for the table is go to the transaction or the process order. Now go to the field which you are looking for. So here I need the reservation, right? So do an F1 here. Click on the function key F1 and you will see this dialog box where you have to select this particular icon for the technical information. So in this dialog box, you could see the field name as RSNum and the table name shows as CAUFVD, which is basically a structure, not a transparent table. So basically the prefix that we have here before the field name, or maybe you can use this screen field as a reference. So the suffix is the field name and the prefix is the table name. So since it is a structure, you have it as ending with a D. But in case you see it as a transparent table, then you will just see this as RESB table. Okay. So now to get the details of the reservation, we can go into the table AFKO, the order header, And let's see if we have the RS num over here. Yes, we have it. So what we can do is we can pass the order number from the AFPO output. So I think I have placed the order. Yeah, 6458. So the output that we have from AFPO, which is our AFPO offner, that can be passed into the AFKO offner and just take the values of the RS num. So here I have the reservation number, which is my RS num. So I'm going to copy this reservation number and put it directly into the RESB table. RESB is basically for the reservation details. So I'm going to paste it in over the RS num in RESB. So what we have done here is we picked AFKO RS num, and now we are placing it in RESB RS num. Okay. So in the output of this RESB table, I need the details of the planned quantity, right? So here I have the planned quantity as BDMNG or and ENMNG. So if I go to the process order, let me go to the process order, COR3, and go to the materials. So here is my requirement quantity. So do an F1 here, and we can see that this is MENGE. The field name is MENGE. So I go back to RESB and look for MENGE, or maybe just double click on the row. Yeah, so here it is the requirement quantity is shown as BDMNG, right? BDMNG in this particular table RESB. So BDMNG will be my requirement quantity. So for that reason, so the planned quantity will be always my requirement quantity, and whereas the consumed quantity will be the quantity of the 261 movement. Okay, so here my planned quantity will be as RESB. I mean, I'm not going to write all the logic. I'm just going to put it in short. So get values for RESB BDMNG. RESB BDMNG for each. If I just scroll up, we also have the material, right? For each RESB MATNR. So for each material, we are going to pick up the requirement quantity from the RESB table. So I'm going to paste it over here. So BDMNG, these are all my values. These are my planned quantities. Now coming to the consumed quantity. So this will be available in the MSEC table. So in the MSEC table, if I would like to see the quantity, so here we have it as in this particular field, quantity. So this is MENGE. Okay. So here again, I can use it as, I mean, instead of writing the entire code, get values for MSEG BDMNG. Am I right? Sorry, it is MENG. MSEG MENG for each MSEG Matner. and the output would be this. So here I haven't mentioned the unit of measure, but it is good to have. It should be along with the quantities. So wherever we talk about the quantities, you should also have the unit of measures being derived in the output. And then the order. So the order number could be straightforward from the AFPO table, right? So here, since we already have the code, I can use the same. You're already passing this Matner from the selection screen to AFPO, right? And then you are deriving the AFPO Matner. So no need to write it again. So you can just write as get values for AFPO Offner. Offner is our uh, technical name for the production order, right? So we are bringing it from AFPO Offner for each AFPO Matner. So in the AFPO, we are passing the material which is our header material, right? Which is our BOM header, the material which we manufacture. So the output would be as the Offner. This is our process order number. And now coming to the posting date. So these posting dates are again available in the MSEG table. If you just yeah, so here we have it. Okay, this is the shelf life expiry date. And here we have the date of manufacture of the batch. And then we have the posting date. So the technical name for the posting date should be, let's take a search. Or maybe search with posting. Yeah, so here we have the posting date as BUDAT_MKPF. So here I'm going to use get values for MSEG BUDAT for each MSEG Matner, right? So it would be, let me copy those values. So these are the posting dates for each of the components that we have consumed so far. So now we have all the values. So let me now put these into the output screen of the report. So here my selection screen, I have the material. Okay, where is the material? I can get it from the process order. So here is the material, and then we have the plant, and then the posting date I'm going to leave it as blank. So with these two parameters I'm going to execute the report. So in the output I could see the header material, and then for the components I can just use these components, and then the plant is same for all the components, so I'm going to copy paste them. And the storage location, the storage locations are different, and the batch, so the batches are also different. So this is my batch number, and then the plant quantity, and then the consumed quantity for the 261, and the order. So this order is going to be repeated for each and every line. Why? Because the user might place some filter, right? So if you don't display these order number, which is common for all these components, so then in that filter you could lose some entries. and then with the posting date finally. Yeah, in the same way, we are going to copy the values for the header material. So now with this particular selection screen, we have the finished product and the manufacturing plant. In the output screen, you could see the output, how it basically appears. Right. So in this way, you can actually play with making some examples on how you can actually derive the data from these technical tables that are provided by the standard SAP, and you can actually add more fields or maybe create your own report and try to make some specifications. And the more you write, the more experience you get, and you would see how you can ease or maybe simplify while writing the specification documents.